Yes, to order at 7:09. Apologies for the late starts. Putting some technology stuff ironed out. Everyone good on technology? Okay. Thanks for having. This is everyone. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your help.
No opinion. Thanks.
So we'll move on to agenda review. There is one item I would like to request that we move up. And that is the superintendent's report. So I'd like to move that up to just after the principal's report, if everyone's all right with that. Yes, okay. Anything else that board members would like to review or move? No? Okay. But we will move right into public comments. I don't see anyone to public in the audience this evening. Is there anyone online? No? Okay. Moving right along then to our principal's report. I looked this way automatically. So there's no rules. No. Welcome.
I went to my
Colleen.
So I call you right. Welcome to school board meeting tonight. I'm so happy to be here to meet everybody. Learning as I go and figuring out where to sit and follow all the rules. Excited to be here. We've been doing a lot of work this summer. Lauren and Ann and I have been working together through the summer to ease the transition for everybody and get things up and running here at school. We've had a lot of great things happening with the school over the summer, lots of work happening. I'm working with a group of teachers from Marion Cross and Ray School this week on some math training. That's been really good, deep work. My brains are tired. But we've been doing a great job. We are fully staffed as far as teacher hires go. We're still looking for some ed assistants. So anybody knows anybody, send them our way. Our enrollment right now, I think we're actually at 465. I think we got a new today. So we might be at 465. What else would you like to know about the summer transition?
All right, thank you. We'll take some questions. Deb, go ahead.
So are we at 465 or 453?
I'm sorry, 450, one more. I was looking at the wrong line.
Right, okay, perfect.
453.
Okay. And I noticed that the kindergarten numbers were a little bit lower than we expected. Kindergarten and first grade. Do we have any sense of why that is? Where else they might be? No, that's totally fine. If it's no.
Not that I know of,
Okay.
but I can look into that and see if anybody has any other information about that.
Okay, super. Just curious if some of the other schools had a bump in there or if there's something going on. Other questions? Thank you so much. Welcome. Yeah, welcome. And thank you to everyone who's been doing all the work this summer in the building. It's a long list of projects.
I've been working hard.
Yeah, so thank you for that. All right, we'll move on to our superintendent's report.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome back. Happy August. Soon to be the opening of the new school year. I am doing my report early. I may leave a little bit early tonight. My dad is going in for surgery in the morning at 7. I have a long drive. I'm staying over with him tonight, so I appreciate you moving my report up. First, I want to welcome Colleen Roy. She has been amazing thus far as our new interim principal, and we've been able to work over the past week together with our leadership team and with the directors. And to Lauren Amrine, our new interim director of curriculum instruction, we got to work together while we've been working sporadically throughout the summer. And then officially this week, she started moving into my old office. I still keep trying to make my way in there. But I had a really busy, last week was my first official week and it was extremely busy. I started out the week with an SAU-wide meeting, had everyone come into now my office, Shay's former office. We have a large space, so I'll be meeting with the SAU staff once a month. Ryan's already set that up on my calendar. And then Wednesday, we had our new staff orientation. We had almost 20 new staff members attend. And I have to say, this is I think the 4th year that I've done this. The first year during COVID, I didn't do it, but I think this was our 4th year of doing it. we have such an impressive group of new staff members. It's incredible. And the people who are coming to Ray, you are going to love them. I was blown away by how friendly and just everyone felt so welcome to be there, and they enjoyed the bus ride that we do every year. And it was such a positive, I felt like, experience for me. And I felt like, oh, I'm so lucky starting with this group of people. So that was great. And then Thursday, I followed that up with a full leadership team director meeting, and that we just looked at different leadership qualities that have impacted us as leaders in different roles that we've had. And we started thinking about our leadership team meetings. That's one of the things I've worked on over the summer. I've laid out all of our leadership team meetings for the year. And this year we're going to rotate through the different schools. So we'll be at a different school each month. And we're using this, we're giving around this book. It's called Data Rules. And you know, we've been doing a lot of work with instructional coaching. This is a Jim Knight, his newest writing. And so one of the things that we're going to do is to do some calibrating in the classrooms and really look at engagement data within the classroom. So we'll do that each month as we go to each of the schools and then discuss that, as well as any other burning issues that we have. But I'm really excited about that too, because one of the things I've always loved to do as a leader is to teach and learn together. So I feel like this is a good move for us in that direction. It's reinforcing a lot of the work that we've been doing over the past few years with instructional coaching and looking at data and really delving into that. So super excited about that. And other than that, I've been just trying to balance both different jobs and get things rolling. And I'm looking forward to our first day with all of the staff members. I am going to have a district-wide breakfast with a little pep talk. And then I'm planning on having a student forum at that meeting, and then recognizing our 10, 20, and 30-year staff members. So I've done that in other places, and I've always just felt like I want to show my appreciation to all of our staff, and I know how hard they work every day. So that will be when everyone comes back on the 25th. So nervous, excited, and all of the above, but so far so good. Week 1.5. So,
And I did just want to highlight for all of our listening audience that all of these transitions happen sort of simultaneously on August 4th, right?
yes.
So we are grateful. We are grateful that in this moment of transition, we have so much experience collectively among all of you. And just anything that we can do to help that transition, please let us know. Any questions? Some of us have been around for a little while. So yeah, anything we can do, let us know. But thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
All of you.
And I would love for all of you to come if you're able to our opening from 8 to 10 breakfast and whatever you'd like to attend. I want to show my appreciation for all of you too. And I'll send you a formal email, so you have the dates. And
the 25th?
The 25th.
It's a formal
8
email.
to 10 at the high school. So I would love to have you there. I would like to show my appreciation to all of you because I know how much time you put in. So thank you.
Are there questions for Robin?
I just wanted to thank you.
Are there non-food related questions?
We'll have good treats.
I also did just want to point out, it's in the Assembly agenda, our new system, the superintendent's corner. There's a link to that. And I know one of our goals, and this was discussed also at the board chairs meeting, which I'll mention a little bit at the end of the meeting. But I know that one of our goals collectively is to put out a little more communication to the community this year. I know that's something that has come up in survey responses. And so we're really going to focus on that as well this year. So that link is a good starting place. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
That note. Any other questions for Robin? You don't think? Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will jump back into our business requiring discussion, and we'll start with the SAS discussion, standardized testing.
So in the agenda, you have a copy of this report here that shows our preliminary data from the state for this year's testing for third, fourth, and fifth grade. And it shows the preliminary comparison to this from the district to the state. Not finalized yet, it should be in the next couple of weeks, but this is just a preliminary snapshot of how we did. Yeah.
On the attachment, can you clarify what the second and third from the right hand columns mean?
Sorry, I mean the blue and green, the colors?
No, I mean like where it says 11,783 and 430.
Oh, that's the number of students that were tested in the state.
So the state and then the district. Okay.
And I assume the 430 is maybe a raw score?
Scale score, yeah.
Scale
Scale
score.
score, okay.
That's what it is.
Pretty much means.
I should have put the headings on there, sorry about
Do you happen to know what the range is for the scores? Is it up to
Great
maybe
question.
500?
Oh, it changes.
that. I have. I didn't bring that. I sent you this, I did make that.
It doesn't seem to be different.
Oh, wait, here we go. What are you looking for overall?
Oh, just like what are the range of possible scores?
So it's, for third grade, the range is 420 up to 750. Fourth is 430 to 790. And fifth is, 450 to 810, that's for ELA. For reading, for third grade, it's 300 up to 550. Fourth grade is 310 to 610. Fifth grade is 320 to 660.
Based on what I can tell, that doesn't sound right. Where for us, you said the reading went up to 550. 550 was the highest.
For reading.
And I see we have we have an average of 607.
That one's like a
Yeah,
simple-
looking at this in the state.
So while Colleen's thinking, I'll just point out, for people who might be watching, we do have some breakdown of data here, and I know we will get more, from Ms. Amrine going forward. This is kind of preliminary data, so we have some numbers, I mean, yes, we again did much better than the state average, which is excellent news. We're always interested in, were there any dips year to year? Were there any trends that we should be excited about or concerned about? So that's something I think that analysis will probably be coming in the next month or so.
Usually in September, I would share a report that looks at longitudinal data each year. So we will prepare that for you probably September, October.
Right.
That's generally when we do that. And then we can look up year by year, and then you can look at cohorts across the 3, 4, and 5 grades. One other thing I'll say too is next year will be the first year that we'll have third graders who have been in the illustrative math for K through 3. So it'll be interesting to see that data too. It's been fun to kind of watch that progress as well.
Yeah, and I will just point out that at this point, we do not have that year-over-year data from the state. So if we noticed a dip in one of our years, for example, like our third graders moving to fourth grade in a particular subject, we don't have any way to see, well, did everyone in the state dip and they just changed the test? So that's why we want to be careful making too many assumptions at this point. So. All right. There's no other questions on this at this point. Congratulations, everyone, because we did well. I think that is the high level, always something to look at and always improve. Thank you, Colleen. Draft budget guidance. Okay, so we have some documents here. We, as you notice, if you're looking at the draft budget guidelines, those are from last year. At about this time, and we are, I think, looking to get our budget process started, given all the transitions we've gone through. We're not quite on the same timeline this year, that is to be expected. So Teresa, if you want to kind of take us through where we're at, what we know, what's coming up.
I've been working closely with Jamie on this and everything else, how very seasoned on, like you said, how the timelines have gone. And jumping in here this year, we're still a little short-staffed, so as Superintendent Steiner said, we're holding a lot of hats right now too, so we're trying to juggle things. And so the kickoff for the budget committee, obviously, we need to set dates for the initial, just going through the guidelines and everything else. So we're looking for that, to set that. There are dates that have been plugged in here. Thirdly, that's the open up plan that they go with plan, but we can move them as we need to.
So, we have chairs for each of these committees, right?
It is my understanding, but I'm not still clear on who they are.
Okay. So,
They
yeah,
would be
go ahead.
nominated at that first meeting.
Okay, so maybe we'll connect to make sure we're getting this kicked off. I believe, and hopefully everyone had a chance to look at the committee assignments, that's coming up later in the meeting. I believe our budget committee is me and Renee, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound right? Anyone here going, no, I'm in the budget committee? No. Seeing no hands.
Some SAU
I see.
and one other. I got them two.
Yes, yes, yes. We recognize your talent, Tara, that's the thing. Okay, so we'll connect on that. In the meantime, if anyone has, so one of the big pieces of this is always understanding, and we have also lost Kim Hartman as a board member who spearheaded these efforts every year. So that is another transition that we're just kind of getting used to. And she did such a great job of it. So one of the things that she was always so good at was knowing what are sort of the external pressures that our taxpayers might be facing that we need to consider as we're setting our guidelines for ourselves, our increased guidelines. On the school side, some of the things we can be thinking about is, what is our school population doing? What are some of the key initiatives aligning with our strategic plan that we really want to focus on? So when we come to that meeting, which I will point out is open to members of the public, so when we come to that meeting, it's good to come in with a sense of, what are our priorities? What are the external pressures? I know I just got my house reevaluation, so I know that's one of those pressures. And we don't know yet what that's going to do to tax rates because the whole tax base is changing. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and also obviously at the state and federal funding levels, we have uncertainty. So all of those pieces will come into play when we get together and talk about what kinds of corridors we might want to set for ourselves in terms of budget increases this year. And I know Ray School has traditionally done an excellent job of zero-based budgeting as well. So that's another piece of the conversation. Anything else to add to the budget conversation this evening? I think it will get going in earnest in the next couple of weeks. So if anyone feels a strong desire to be part of that budgeting process, whether you're on the committee or not, please feel free to join in those conversations. We welcome you. All right, moving along to reading of policy. Then it's like the one committee that never goes dormant.
We'll talk about that in So for Colleen's benefit, the policy committee discussions often begin at the SAU or sometimes the Dresden meetings, and they kind of trickle down to the individual schools. So often when they get to the Hanover school board level, there's often not much left to say. And that's not a dig on this board. It's more like these members have had this discussion before. We don't want to reiterate just for the sake of reiterating. So what we're looking at now are things that were actually discussed all the way back in, I believe, May at both SAU and Dresden. This gets back to the request for records. And the bigger things that we talked about that last one is how we argued for having to be the maximum charge for printing and searching costs, and by maximum, like a page level of maximums, and what to do if there were financial things, if there was by the person requesting, or if there was a order, things of that nature. And we had a fairly detailed discussion on this back in May, and it ended with an agreement that there was no changes previously. So these have been unchanged since May. And I'll leave it at that. Let's do some last questions.
Marcella's on that committee. Who else is on this board?
Garrett, or it's just.
Garrett. So thank you, all three of you.
Garrett is the Norwich chair.
Any questions on the policy? Okie dokie, and we will be approving those, I believe. Yes, okay. Our special education update. Cindy.
Should I say yes?
It might, that's a question for Noah. It's probably better with the fan and everything to come a little closer, yeah.
Although we like.
Also, our X-ray vision through Carrie is not quite.
Yeah, it's not
so-
great. Can I? Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm Cindy. For those of you who don't
Maybe
know
come in
me-
front,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
These two things right here are the
If you're
cameras.
more comfortable, you can just sit right next to Marcella. That might be.
Yeah.
It's hard with the computer.
I'm Brett's Assistant Director of Student Services for Brett, and he's not here. So I'm gonna try to do this the best I can. Budget wise, this year, we had a projection of 5 students attending out of district placements, currently 4. We have currently 4 Dresden students and 0 Hanover students in out of district placements. We budgeted for public out of state tuition. We had budgeted $63,000 and we're actually projecting costs of $187,000 and 75. So we have a deficit there of $124,000. But the private tuition line, we had budgeted $1 million. You can read it. And we're actually gonna be under that line, so total will be under budget by $257,000, because there were some changes in student need that shifted the costs. So we currently, for the same reasons, have a shift in special ed student transportation costs. We budgeted $3,000 and the projected costs are actually $41,000. So we'll have a deficit there of $38,000. And that's also similarly attached to the change in need of some of our students. We have eligible costs for special ed aid from the Department of Education, which will be reimbursed to us this year. The budgeted revenue included in this year's budget was $365,000, and the reimbursement is currently projected to be $458,756.
I'm surprised.
I think it.
Yeah. Great, thank you. I will just point out for one who's not familiar with the structure of our district. The way that this works, because if you look at this and said, well, there's 0 Hanover students, why are we paying for special education funds if there are 0 Hanover students? It's because all of the students who reside within the town of Hanover come back to the Hanover budget for special education expenses regardless of their age. So when they are in kindergarten through 12th grade within our school district, if they reside in Hanover, it falls to this particular budget because that's how we divide it out with the Dresden Pact. So, yep.
As well as general transportation as well, not just special transportation.
Correct. Yep.
Then is it also worth saying that the reimbursement is for, there's always a year lag? So we spend it, then we start spending the next amount, and then we sort of retroactively get reimbursed by the state.
Correct. And at this point, that amount is anybody's guess.
Right.
Because the actual reimbursement amount has been. Yeah.
So my question was, what kind of clarity do we have on that projected revenue? Is there a particular timeline where we know for sure when the actual number will be realized?
Predicting somebody was gonna ask me that question. I asked Rhett and he said to defer to Teresa.
What a second question. Well, I'll go back down in a second. Please, sorry. The second question is the projection different because we overspent the budgeted last year? So that we actually incurred more costs, which is why our projected reimbursement would be higher? Or did we miscalculate something?
I don't know the answer to that question,
I
but I
would
can
say
find
at high
out.
level, it really is a shot in the dark at this point, what they're going to decide to reimburse, because they essentially said, we're not gonna be reimbursing. And
Yeah.
and now they're reimbursing some because they got pushback, so
Right.
I don't know.
But the
if
numbers
budgeting-
that we
yeah.
banked in,
Yeah, I
were
don't know.
banked in so long ago, it's before the
Yeah.
current revenue.
And yeah, it would be good to look, Teresa, might be something to put in for a future report, what our end of year, costs were for last year for special education, since to Deb and Tara's point, this reimbursement would be on that 1 year lag.
Right.
So just to understand, where we were last year.
So the hot potato question, Teresa, is when might we have clarity on the actual realized revenues back from the state on special ed?
In the fall, we should get our last payments, the way they're lagging and everything else. So we should have, some by October.
So really soon we'll find out. And we get the entire
I mean,
reimbursement.
some of the Medicaid
once?
reimbursement stuff, like they should tell us, based on the guidelines, the chart or whatever, but again, the numbers that I keep checking, we don't have a solid, everything's all over the place, so I don't have a solid percentage or anything right now to base it on.
Does it come at once or does it come in different bundles from different state agencies or from different?
I mean, it comes through the state of Vermont, is that what you're asking?
Rescue New Hampshire.
We're asking about New Hampshire.
Sorry.
Red
New
Hampshire.
New Hampshire,
Wow.
Fed reimbursement.
Through the Hampshire reimbursement, yes, it comes through, through the advice slips and everything else, they do this, usually it's, I would say quarterly on those. I forget, I'll tell you real quick, I'll look it up. I forget how long. Something to.
Yeah, go ahead, Ben, sorry.
And, Teresa, with the change in state level administration, has there been any noticeable change in the reimbursement amount or the timelines, or any delays on their part?
No, not delays on getting the payments and stuff like that. There's been no problems with that or anything. It's been, everything's been consistent on that. It's just that with the, just again, with the decisions and the adequacy aid and other, factors in there, and the federal funding. It's where it's kind of really balancing.
Other questions? Yeah, Ben.
Question for Cindy.
Mhm.
So we've been told by Rhett in the past, I think it's historically been true that with special ed and kids aging and maturing and that kind of stuff, that typically the vast majority of our special ed costs are more at the elementary school level rather than the older students in Dresden. And at least for out of placements, that seems to have completely flipped this year. Is there any trend in that, or is it more just random fluke?
I don't know about the out of district, if that's true for all. I think special ed wise generally, that seems to be true, that it's more K-5, but I don't know about the out of district part specifically, if those costs are generally higher for the older kids or not. I could ask Brett, if you have that question, we can look and see if there's a trend.
Yeah, I think there tends to be more interventionist support at the elementary school
Yeah.
level that they would then age out of a bit when they head into middle school and high school, but.
And you didn't ask me, and I'm
Sure,
not,
go
I
ahead.
don't work in the special ed department, but I think in general, the reality of out of district placements is that might actually trend opposite within the special ed budget, because many out of district placements are not for littles. They're more, I mean, there's not enough.
Bigger
placements, period, But
bodies.
most of them
Yeah.
are. Not. Ages.
Thank you, Cindy. Any other questions for Cindy? All right, please go back to your spot. Thank you very much for being here. All right, then we're back to you, Norwich Finance Committee.
All right, so the reason that Kelly called on me for this is that for Collins work, I'm also the Dresden chair. And so this was something that came to Garrett and I, Garrett again as the Norwich chair, where the Norwich Finance Committee, which is just like a Hanover Finance Committee, something that is delegated typically by the town of Norwich to sort of vet, double check, back up, argue for and against the town's budget, also has hands in the schools, as it does in Hanover. And that Norwich committee has been dormant for many years. They've struggled with quorum issues, they've struggled with non-education related issues at the town level, some of which we know about, some of which we don't. But it's been recently formatted in June. And the new chair of that person, a guy named Steve something or other, I think, reached out to Garrett and I in our respective chair roles, kind of asking, how does this work? Is there new to it? We are not new to it as well, because it's been dormant for several years. And the reason that has ramifications for Hanover is that the newly reformed, I guess, Dresden Finance Committee will have members of both Hanover and Norwich on it, including one or two of us to be on both the Hanover Finance Committee as well as now on the Dresden Finance Committee. And all these budgets will sort of bounce off each other when it comes to budget season, and we'll need to be mindful of what the other districts are doing, because it will have ramifications in the end for Hanover taxpayers. So if we are having a very big budget increase hypothetically for whatever serious need there is at Ray School, then perhaps Dresden will need to back off if they have some big increase or vice versa. So we all try to kind of not step on each other's toes, keep each other abreast during that process. And once that group is formulated with exact numbers, then I think it will come back to the Hanover board to decide who we're sending to Dresden, noting it does not have to be the same members of the Hanover Finance Committee, and perhaps maybe it shouldn't be for quorum reasons, because if it gets too big, meetings may not happen.
But it could be.
Yeah.
And so I think there are some questions still as to the legal requirements. I know there was something about, they have to have approval from the schools in order to form themselves, I believe. There was something.
My understanding is that's from the Norwich School Board. I don't think it's necessarily the Dresden School Board. I think it's once Norwich signs off on it, comes automatically Dresden. Is my understanding. But this is kind of a new process that Kelly mentioned. We've had many changeovers and many people who had their hands very full on the finance committee, where the board members to that committee will be new this year. Both of us are new as chairs this year, although we've been chairs before from other boards. We have a new VA, we have a new superintendent, we have a new principal, welcome. And so it's going to be an atypical year in terms of, I think, expertise and previous planning and experience and things like that. So when this is yet another new concept that we'll have to deal with, like, we have to talk to Norwich people about the rest of the budget. That doesn't make sense. So, yes.
Did you have a question?
Did I miss, I may not have said, in terms of this, what the timeline is for implementation of this new process?
It's going to start with this year, so planning for 26, 27. So I think basically once the first budget committee meetings are planned, Norwich will start showing up at the Dresden meetings. Well, before it was Hanover, basically delegating and dictating that rather than Norwich townspeople input.
We don't have chairs yet.
No, that would be
Dresden.
correct. That would, the chair of all committees would be formed at the first meeting.
And the seats are assigned generally by the town, and then there are representatives from other bodies like us.
It's the internal board finance committees. So it's careful there because there's similar names. There's the Hanover Finance Committee, which is the one where it's people accepted by the town, where we have one person on it, which I previously couldn't mark, and I think might be now. Okay. And then there's the internal board budget committee, where it's 2 to 3 members, including the chair typically, and the relevant principals and the superintendent and the VA, and I think 1 or 2 other people typically. Both of them are new too. Like was Amy there previously, I think? Or
I don't think for the budget funds.
it was a fairly large group. I think the
Dresden is larger than Hanover. I think Hanover was typically the principal and the board members and the business administrator and the superintendent for assistants.
Was the associate principal though too, or? Like was it?
Not as an official member of the committee.
So it's not a Dresden Finance Committee, it's a Dresden Budget Committee that people are showing.
So now it's going to be a Dresden Finance Committee where it's going to be.
That's a town.
That's the town thing, that but they're going to come, this thing we'll be seeing Hanover Finance come here in some capacity, and the Dresden Finance Committee now comes to Dresden on occasion. but now it will have Norwich members as well. And we'll have grown in size.
And we really think that these bodies will be organized in time to fully participate
That is the
in
hope,
this
yes.
budget process.
I believe the membership has already been assigned by the town of Norwich.
I will just add, I think the fully participate is perhaps, and then you basically explained this already, but just to emphasize. The budgets are set, our school budgets are set by us.
Right.
They opine, they give us their, pulling in, I'm sure we've all seen all of the wonderful construction going on throughout Hanover. They'll bring in that perspective and say, we have these financial considerations, the reevaluations, the construction, all of that. So as you're considering, please also keep that in mind. So there is a little bit of back and forth on that, but ultimately they are not involved in the creation of our budgets, right?
And so often, not always, but typically they agree with it because they see the building of it internally. They often come to the meetings and listen, as we know. And they ask good questions. Their chair, as most of us know, Kari Asmus is very detail oriented. And she's not the chair anymore, but she's on the committee now. Okay, never mind. But
she has done. a lot.
members have been very involved and they haven't agreed with us every time. But it is advisory, that is the point of their existence, that is delegated by the town and by the relevant statutes and regulations, where they are the citizen advisory committee to town spending, of which the schools are a part of.
Other questions? Yes.
This is just a reflection of the retired English teacher on the board. Recognizing that I'm really a dud when it comes to appointing me to finance-ish, budget-ish meetings. But I really worry about adding another thing for the people who are our kind of quantitative folks on the board. And I'm not saying I don't understand the need for it. I'm not saying it's not valuable, but how many of these is it possible for one or two board members to juggle? And I'm concerned about that.
I think that's a valid concern. Yeah.
And that's something that we, at the 4 chairs meetings, when we delegate these committee assignments, have to deal with and wrap our heads around, because it's a combination of who is good at what. But we also have to figure out in terms of availability, can this person actually make these meetings, particularly if it's a meeting that we know has to be during the day to accommodate staff work hours. And it's also who's more likely to show up, which is not the same thing as being on that committee, rightly or wrongly, as well as trying to keep it somewhat equitable in terms of board member load, while acknowledging the different strengths and weaknesses, as well as more ability to be there or not, based on, for example, being retired or working from home, all those other things that we have to keep track of.
Right.
So we do the best we can, knowing it will not be as equal or equitable as we want, but we try.
Well, if somebody wants to give me lessons. Oh my God, I don't mean that, but I am retired, but. Oh.
So I was gonna say that Renee and I are trying to balance some of these things. And we have met outside of the meetings because some of the issues on the table are complicated enough that we both have to coordinate. And I have some deep concerns, especially regarding the CIPC committee, because there are lots of questions. There's not a lot of transparency. I think that we, as a board, and I'm out of order, I know I'm out of order because well, I will forget, so I'm just gonna say, we might want to discuss trying to work with the town to get some more transparency from the CIPC committee. There are no materials that I can find available on the town website. I had to get a copy of an agenda from Renee. I had to, and I'm an official alternate for that committee. I had to ask to get onto the email list. There's just nothing available. So if we wanted to discuss or sort of ruminate on some of the numbers and the really sort of important high-level discussions that are going on, it is nearly impossible because I just don't have access to the historical data from the first year of that committee that I wasn't involved in.
And there will be a delay because for us to have a conversation about anything before they make a decision or take any action.
Yes.
Sometimes things move very quickly
Yeah.
and catch us off guard.
Yeah.
I think that the Hanover Finance Committee, sadly, is at the same way. There's no public posting of all of the nuts and bolts and data. It's wasteland. Or I'm looking in the wrong places. And I did spend a little bit of time trying to figure some of that stuff out. So we may want to consider trying to, because our stuff is very available, historically deep. Some of these other committees which impact the work that we do and our considerations may not be. So I'm not sure. I'm gonna reach out to you as chair. Who do we work with?
I'm taking notes and we'll bring it.
Not just
We'll
for
have the
me, but for the
conversation, for
next round and the
Yeah.
next round, and we are going to lose that.
And before we add another committee onto
Yes.
that, yeah. And it occurs to me, just listening to you, Deb, as we move to the Dresden discussion of this, I'm wondering if we could have a Hanover member, a Hanover representative and a Norwich representative who wouldn't necessarily both have to be there every time, but would share common interests, common themes, and bring it back to the Dresden board. So that's something to maybe lessen a little, but
Maybe talk about it next week.
yeah, okay. Any other questions on this? Yeah, Ben.
And I'll add to Tara's point as well as for general knowledge for folks in the room. And it has become evident that the Hanover School Board and the Hanover Select Board are not necessarily in alignment on everything. In fact, we notably butted heads. And I think
That's some misunderstandings. Yes, yeah, that's
Um,
some misunderstandings.
a few
that we
months ago.
cleared up.
Kelly's much more eloquent than I am, should be obvious. And so we do need to keep tabs on what they're up to more than perhaps we historically have, and I'm sure they're probably thinking the same thing. Kelly and I and Deborah Tara, both of us have made appearances at Hanover Select Boards to have some discussion. I had to speak at town meeting as well, which I'd rather not do in that capacity. And so we've gotten more involved, and I'll add in information that may not be known to everyone, where we had parents across all 4 districts take a very involved 69 item survey in May, that we got many hundreds of people who took it. And one of the clear takeaways from it, to the point of 70-75%, please do this, which in a big survey like that, you don't get rates that high of please do this, was tell us more about the politics. We want to know what's going on. We want people to say, here's what's happening. Here's where we need parental support. Not necessarily much of, do we care about your personal opinions, but more like, here's what's going on that is relevant to our students at the state, national, and local level. So that was a very clear-cut directive from our very knowledgeable, very involved, very intelligent parents. And so we probably are gonna have discussions about what that means, how to do it. Is it us? Is it Robin? Is it Colleen? And ways to get at that. And that is all part of this conversation that parents want to know, because one of the biggest things we heard of, and we floated, here's all the things that are coming down the pipeline, whether it's redistricting or guns for kindergartners, as it's commonly said, and all the things at the national level. Most of the parents' responses was, what now? You know? And that's things I think we often forget at the board level, because we're all here because we're involved, we're invested, we're curious. And that's not to say that everyone else isn't as well, but it's more things that we think everyone knows because we talk about it all the time. They don't, but they want to. And so we need to work on that. And this, I think, falls into that.
Great, thank you then. All right, anything else on that agenda item? It will come back next week. Yeah.
I don't know how relevant, but as we're talking about this, and the lack of knowledge, I feel very similar to Deb's in my social work hat, don't have a clue about finance. And so thinking about if that is a need, like, there'll be another election, and like, is there a way of saying, like, we are looking for people with a finance background, or are there trainings that would be appropriate for board members if we end up not having that strength on the committee? Because I do think it's just
Definitely something that we shared when we were filling Kim's
Yeah.
spot, knowing that that was going to create this particular very large void. it's definitely something, you know,
Yeah.
we discussed openly that was a need that we had. And, you know, I think it's one of those things when you join the board, yes, there's the educational philosophy piece of it. There's all the, you know, wonderful kindergartners building trolls aspect of being on the board, right? But so much of it is policy and budgets. And I think that's the reality that hits a lot of people once they start board service. So, I think, yeah, but in terms of trainings, I will say just join a budget committee at some point, not as the chair, but that's been helpful to me. So if that's something, even, you know, if you can just make a couple meetings here and there to kind of get your feet wet through the process, that can be really helpful too. But yeah, it's a valid concern, certainly. I will also say you look better than you give yourself credit. So.
Thanks. I think so too.
I want to point out too, that if the situation where Renee joined the board was also very different, where we got to appoint someone.
Right,
because there
right.
wasn't a
No.
missing slot.
Yeah.
So when it comes to an elected position, we are not, and I definitely, that's where we probably should not. I don't think we can opine as to what we need.
Right, well, I think
Yes.
if that's a
Yeah,
piece of the
it's-
communication, it's just that this is the work we're doing, you know, I think
Yeah.
there's a piece of like tied to that communication piece, sharing with, you know, if that's heavy load this year because like statewide, both states and
Yeah.
national
Yeah.
policies, politics impact budgets, impact, you know,
Mhm.
during the Medicaid stuff, especially, I mean, it's like around the mess. And I think if that communication, without being like, we need a finance background, you know, over candidate A, but like just generally, if that's the communication, that is a lot of what the work is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
absolutely.
there's a piece there.
And back to our communication point, right? Getting
Right,
that
yeah.
out more. Yeah. Anything else on this? All right, we covered a lot on that one. Thank you, guys. Moving on into business requiring action. And I think we can do a consent agenda. Pause. We unfortunately in the consent agenda, I apologize for not noticing this, we have our hires. So before we do that piece, we'll need to just make sure everyone's okay with the hires. So let's take a motion for A through E by consent, and then we'll come back to hires. Yep.
I move to approve items B through B. Because we don't really need to approve A.
No, we do not. You're right. Thank you.
Okay, by consent.
Thank you, Deb. Is there a second? Carrie seconds. Okay. I don't believe we have anyone online. No. Okay, so all in favor? That is unanimous. Noting that Renee is not here this evening. So we'll move on into, yes,
Oh, sorry.
we'll come back to the hires after we
Oh.
do make sure we don't need a non-public, right?
Oh,
I
sorry.
can. We'll need a non-public, but not following our agenda order, so. All right, so communications and reports, and we'll come back to the hires in a moment. So I have a couple things to report. So I shared with all of you that 4 chairs met. We are hoping to meet approximately monthly instead of quarterly. There's a lot kind of fire hose coming at us from the state, coming at us on the legislation side, on lawsuits that have been, you know, coming out as well. And I believe we'll have some updates to that as well. So, you know, and some of that is available on the website as well. So we're gonna try to meet more regularly so that we can hopefully kind of bring some of that together and make sure that when we're coming to you guys, we have a better sense for what we need from these bodies. So not to make decisions as a 4 chairs group, but more to understand what exactly we need to be bringing to you guys for fruitful discussion, so that we're on task and moving forward in the appropriate way. To that end, we also decided this time, for the first time, to elect a chair of the 4 chairs. So I'm the chair of the 4 chairs, which simply means I get to yeah, for proposing ideas, right? I get to make sure we're setting an agenda, following the agenda, and when it comes time for retreats, we'll have a better sense of direction, because that was a tough moment last year. We all kind of looked at each other and said, well, who's in charge of setting our agenda for the retreat? So Those are some of our goals, at the board chairs level. Another piece of that is getting more communication out to you guys. I apologize. I know I sent a communication later than I meant to today. But hopefully that will come out once the agenda is published so that I can give you a better sense of here are the key, high level points, any additional information to really pay attention to, or to look back in earlier meetings at, those sorts of things, just to help give us a little more orientation heading into meetings. Anything else from our chairs that I didn't mention? Okay,
Kelly,
yes.
I didn't get communication from me today at all,
Oh,
so I don't know.
did anyone else?
I did.
You might not be on our Hanover list then, which is really good information. So I will make sure that, no. Will not go out?
I got it.
You got it. You got it.
I assumed to my,
Oh, I beg your pardon. It's
You did get it, but you did not get it. So there might be,
Got it after I got here.
that's why I sent it very late, so I apologize.
Arrived at 5:31.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you would see it, Carrie, so that's very, very good information. We'll make sure that our lists are updated. There's a chance in moving over to Assembly or whatever, that's something in the list.
I mean, it's still very helpful.
Yeah, I'll check with Diane on that, so, thank you very much. The other thing that I wanted to just let you guys know, you had voted to give me authority to sign the thing with the state, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it, but the board member, group that is getting together to try to understand more with the education commissioner, what's happening at the state level. Deb, are you still on that, in that group as well?
Both of us signed the
The
letter
as
that
individuals?
was originally circulating, and then I pulled Ben and you into the conversation, but I don't know that anything has moved forward.
So they
with that.
did have a meeting, so
Oh, they
they
did?
may have just gone to the chairs at that
I
point.
think that was their.
So
plan.
they did have a meeting. Were you able to go to that meeting? Okay, so we'll make sure you're on that list. This is good. I have lots of lists to double check on. They did have a meeting, between the school board chairs who had signed on to this effort. They, unfortunately, because there was also transition happening at the education commissioner level, seems to be a year of transition. They were not able to get the meeting with Caitlin Davis yet, but they are planning to set that up. They're also planning to meet monthly throughout the year and have sent out some surveys about, defining joint legislative priorities, things that we care about, that we want to know more about. So if there's anything that you would like me or Ben to communicate forward on that front, please send me an email, let me know, and I will make sure that gets shared with that group.
What would be really wonderful would be if you could just FYI us when you're about to have a meeting, so that if there's something, if there's a gap in
Yeah.
terms of board meetings, but we're concerned with something we're seeing unfolding in the press or somewhere else, we can say, would you please take this with you to the meeting?
Yeah.
That would be really helpful.
Absolutely, and I apologize, it happened, they did two meetings, two Zooms, and they both happened when I was at Fleet Parent Weekend, so I was not able to go. But I have been following up with them, so yeah, thank you, that's a great suggestion. And they're also looking to add additional districts, add hopefully more diverse voices, so if you have suggestions for people who might be interested, let me know that as well.
I think one of the challenges, obviously, was the initial circulation of the document about taking a more political position was something that a lot of school boards were reluctant to do at that time. But as evidenced by both your interest and Ben's, if we can meet and have these conversations moving forward, it's a completely different potential scenario. So I would hope they would reach out to board members, but I think they ought to just reach out to every board chair and say, this is a committee we're forming. And the Commissioner of Education is working with us, and I would imagine everybody will want to do it, but they won't need, as we had to do, sort of come to the board and say, are you okay with us signing on to this document?
Right.
And I think they're very different.
Right, and I will point out too, that I think a lot of these conversations are essentially apolitical, because they're questions about, you know, these new laws coming from the state or coming from the federal government are in direct conflict with existing legislation, with existing laws. How do we reconcile that? What do we do about that? Or you're putting in new laws, new requirements with no funding to be able to offer the, you know, new requirements for graduation, for example. So it's those sorts of things that I think this group is really hoping to at least initially start with. And that really is apolitical. It's how do we function with these conflicting guidelines? Ben.
Well, point out too, one of the differences where I think, like Deb mentioned, both boards were somewhat reticent when this came around a few months ago, because it was more of a, here we have a political perspective, help us advocate, regardless of our individual feelings. And so now both it's changed, where now it's more apolitical, it's more educational updates, as well as now we have a clearing call from our survey saying, yes, please go be more politically aware. So I would say now it's more obvious, with my fingers over the head, like now we need to get on with some change in philosophy.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about other sports.
Right, absolutely, yes, I agree, yeah. All right, committee reports, sorry, any questions for the chair? Any questions for me? Okay, super, let me know if you have questions. Committee reports, Deb.
I just want to say that, I think everybody knows that we presented a proposal for the October meeting of the School Board Association, and I was anticipating leaving the country, so I reached out to Barrett and said, when are you gonna ask us for these? Because I know the deadline is the first and they have a form, and so they did it right away, because I said I have to leave, so I mean, I don't really have to leave that soon. But just to reassure everybody, I think I emailed you, Ben, and said it's in. I sent it in, it's all done, so. I did my job.
You never had any doubt.
Oh, well, I just wanted to reassure.
Thank you. Thank you, Deb. And thank you for your service to that committee. You do it very, very well.
Thanks.
Any other committee report updates? The budget committee we've talked about, Renee is out of town, but that will kick up in earnest once she returns. The finance committee, I assume
I
I got
attended CRPC for later.
Okay.
So,
anything to report or share other than difficulties finding information.
there's lots of planning in place at the town level for expending lots of money on various projects, which I think we could reasonably expect is going to make the fiscal situation quite challenging moving forward, and we need to be aware. And Renee and I are rightfully confused because we're relatively new entrants to the discussion, and I've only been to 2 select board meetings, and we should probably attend more. When we are unaware of the bigger picture plan, if there is one, to really, and there probably is, and we just can't get the data, about setting priorities and really having a like 5 to 10 year understanding of fiscal impacts of town capital improvement expense projects today, how they're going to impact taxes. And we don't see that. And that's not, it should be a touchstone as far as I'm concerned. And I am deeply, deeply concerned. So, and she is as well.
Is the only way to be involved with the improvement program committee to attend the select board meetings?
No, however, the select board is the body that is making the decisions.
Right.
And the CIPC committee, which is a different set of meetings, are sort of acting in an advisory capacity as to these are great ideas and this has full support, or there are some questions, or there are some concerns, or we need to hire a consultant to do a study. And so there are studies going on right now.
And they have a different membership as well. So there's the select board, which are elected people, and then the CIPC is a bit
There
more.
are multiple people from the
Yes.
select board on the CIPC, the Hanover Finance Committee is also covered. I think there might be some members at large. I don't, there's a school board, I don't know what, there's a variety, but it's not, oh, I would like to help out kind of committee. It's, you are representing another group. And so it's very insular. And
Is it open to the public?
it is open to the public,
Videos are available.
but I'm quite concerned that the public at large does not really know what's going on in these discussions, is blissfully unaware, and there will be real implications. So.
I'm wondering if it might be possible to somehow add that to our communications page somewhere. That these meetings are taking place, here's where you can look at a video, they're not live streamed, right? But there is a video that is published afterwards. So if anyone's curious or wanting to learn more, they could watch the video.
Because, yeah, and I have not looked through to how to access those videos, but I do see when I go to the town website and look under the committees that are supposed to have the agendas minutes, I don't see minutes for the CIPC committee. I see something like this, which is an 8-item agenda with no links,
Collaboration.
no.
Okay.
Right, so there's not a lot of, when I say I was frustrated and it's posted on the day of the meeting or
Mhm.
after the day of the meeting, so you really can't tell unless you're already plugged in what the topics of discussion are or might be.
So I will either, well, one way or another, I'll figure out how we can. And it may be as simple as saying, we would like to get this information out to the community. What's the best way to do
And
that?
some of the projects that are being contemplated by this group really will be successful, most successful when community understanding and involvement is prioritized. And they realize that to a level. And at one point, they said to the new school board committee, we're gonna need your help, communicating about this to your community, which is great, but I don't have the bits to communicate, and I really can't foresee some of the trajectories where these discussions are going.
Well, and maybe my not knowing about Crosby Street closing is a good example, but that has a big impact on our buses and
Yep.
our morning
Also
routines. and-
repaving in front of the high school at the same time.
Yeah, did we know about that?
We did,
Okay,
yeah,
But,
they did, they met with Jay.
but we, meaning the parents and
Yeah.
staff.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe one of us needs to start going to.
Deb, I think that,
Please.
I think there's an opportunity, even if you're not in love with the number crunching aspect. of
Uh-huh.
this, you understand the dynamic of town-wide planning and implications to various constituents. Right, so I think it would be wonderful to sort of, even if it's just a first capacity, go to meeting.
Oh,
yeah,
Are you talking about the capital improvement or about the?
But finance committee is really gonna be
Yeah.
about numbers, but there's also high level discussion of priorities and concerns
Yeah.
and things that aren't about, do some math in your head,
Okay,
right?
well, I am interested, so.
And if you want to go to a select board meeting, I think the buddy system is great, because if we have 2 people go, then you have someone to say, do you understand that? And who is that person and what just happened here?
Right,
Because there's a lot of,
right. And they really like to see me at the select board meeting.
All right, so I will let you two sort out, and it's gonna go, what,
Okay.
I think this is a wonderful,
You can-
wonderful
You can
plan,
count on me.
wonderful plan. All right, if there's another, yeah, Ben.
And I'll point out too that I did find that some of the best CIPC YouTube video that you were on, I watched it, I think it's before.
Oh, yeah.
The But, it, just like I said, it is enlightening. It's always kind of, when I went to my first select board, meeting, it's the same thing, kind of like, oh, this is gonna be so bureaucratic and so wrong. It's like, oh, actually, I didn't get to talk. Like,
Yeah.
it can get very interesting very quickly. One thing I thought, what's always interesting is I went to YouTube just now to try to find that video. And when I searched in Hanover CIPC New Hampshire meeting, the first thing that came up was us live. So I'm like, oh, that's my shirt that I'm wearing right now. We need people in this time, separate from our Zoom, so we folks are still watching.
That's all fun.
All right. We will move, it's definitely not my spouse, I'll tell you that. Moving along to our interim director of curriculum and instruction report.
Hopefully you had a chance to review all the amazing things that have been happening this summer / in the last 14 days. It's been a really fun, wild ride with a lot more to come. So this is just the beginning, an overview of some of the things that I've started working on with Robin as we sort out what this year will look like and our big initiatives and how I can support curriculum instruction, including being part of the grant writing process, as well as organizing K-12 meetings. And already having meetings with various faculty members in the district about their thoughts around instruction and curriculum. So really excited to continue. Happy to answer any questions.
Ben.
I should know this, but what is Frontline?
Frontline is a system that we use for professional growth. So in there, we can log all of our staff development hours and activities, the things that lead to recertification. It's also the place where we provide documentation for evaluation, coaching, and other supervision.
Other questions, Helen? Thank you. We're excited for your new role. All right, Teresa.
I've uploaded my document also.
No, can you hear her? Sorry, Teresa, can you hear her? Yep, okay, thank you.
Sorry, I just want to highlight once again what I had said about our office being a little understaffed since May 1st. Things were looking up. We actually interviewed and hired a assistant business administrator. And that lasted all of 2 weeks before she resigned. So it didn't last very long. So we posted the job again and we're still interviewing the front desk position, administrative assistant up there. Still been searching and trying to, seems like either maybe it's not enough for somebody or it's just not. So we're moving along right now, trying to get everything tied up for the end of the FY25 school year. The financials, our audit will be second week of September. We're scheduling out our audit. So at that point, I'll also have a solid number on our fund balance. Because right now we're still holding, I think the last report I gave was roughly around 40,000. And so we're still kind of in that ballpark at the beginning of changes. Anything else to report? Our DOE report, that's something that Jamie and I are going to be working on. And then transportation, I've had meetings with the transportation department, especially about the busing, obviously, would probably be what you guys have stated too, because we've had those meetings before, and they claim it's only like a 5 or 10 minute difference, but it's really not going to be that big of a deal for them. But they just have to obviously come down through to make sure the bus is facing the right way. The bigger problem that has been discussed, and when I was at a recent meeting in Concord, was our open ridership on the buses. And they're not fond of that idea because we lock our doors in our schools and we try to keep our kids safe, but then we just open the door to anybody standing on the. If they look like a student, they might be picked up. And so the safety there has been brought up. I just want to, and that's like something that down the line that we might have to address. not having it quite listed as an open branch. And our bus drivers really do have a list of students, because right now, none of them have a list of students. So they don't know if they technically live in that neighborhood or not. We don't get to know them all the time, but could be variances. And then we had overcrowding issues last year, some of us. Food service seems to be going pretty well. There's pretty quiet as far as like the high school food service, and we're still contracted with the food service management company. Moving forward on that. There's a bunch of projects that went on this summer, the library, and haven't been back over to see how it all went. And everything else, it's still completely in progress. The Richmond funds, that whole project, where phase one was supposed to use those funds to purchase the equipment. Phase two was gonna be actually doing the groundwork and all. As far as the Richmond funds, we're still in holding, because by the time I got the information that said, hey, come to this meeting, I've been off a couple of days, and when I got the email this morning at 8:30.
Oh, no,
And
this morning?
yes, this morning. So, and I had been asking for 3 weeks to get the information about when's the meeting.
Mhm.
And then I got the email while I was off for a couple of days, and didn't see it till it was after 8:30 this morning. So unfortunately, the next meeting is, as far as Kirk says, the next meeting would be mid to late October.
Maybe follow up together. That's unfortunate. Okay. Thanks for that update. All right. Yes. Ben.
This is kind of a half Hanover, half Dresden question, so if you don't know right now, maybe no.
Only ask the second half then.
Have we had, since you mentioned like that, how have the conversations been going regarding the transportation for sports?
I
Middle
do
school.
have notes. I'm starting to put it on this one, realize, wait, that's gonna work. I mean, just a brief on the transportation with the sports, you know, it is that, they're still saying that we're fine, and there's only gonna be, we'll have to meet with the athletic directors to make sure the schedules line up, because if they both overlap on one day, that's when the potential would be there. But we won't deal with that till our winter sport. We'll be the rest.
Okay.
Other questions? Teresa? Okay. If there's anything we can do to help with hiring, I mean, if it's changing job titles or looking at the money, if we're not aligned with.
Realign job titles, descriptions, to really
Yeah.
describe what the person will be doing, and unfortunately, the person that resigned, went back to the original school because they poached her back.
Well, so the levers that we can pull are basically financial, right? So if, we've done this with substitute teaching, we've a teacher to try to get more substitute teachers in the district. We've done this with substitute nursing. If that is a lever that would be helpful, if we're not aligned with comparable salaries, please bring that to us.
And well, on the
yeah.
aspects of the assistant PA position, that one does align. We even actually got a candidate that said they did a bunch of research and said we were right in target, which is kind of nice to know. It's more the front desk position is the one that seems to be the starting salary and the scale that
Aligning.
a couple of people were interested, but as soon as we offered it to them, and then they heard the number again, even at the top of the scale, they're like, oh, I thought it was this. And then they said we'll decline, but
Okay.
the other position, it was just unfortunate that she's gonna move into a VA position.
Understand that. Tara.
It can also help with, I think, promoting the job. You could let us know where we can find the job descriptions or where you're currently advertising the positions, that would be helpful. Even if you just send us a note, so we can pass it through our networks in case.
Okay,
That
and it can
helps.
definitely be downloaded off the schools, search link, job
Okay.
search link, they are posted there, I'm sure.
Great. Any other questions for Teresa? Righty, seeing none, I believe that takes us to the non-public, sorry. Computer clicked off. So, just to remind everyone, the only items we have for non-public this evening are personnel matters, some hires, basically that happened over the summer. We are not required to go into non-public to discuss those, but if anyone would like to go into non-public to discuss those, we absolutely can. So if anyone would like to make a motion to go into non-public to discuss, the 3 hires that you see in the agenda, please do so now. Seeing none, we will skip non-public, so we are now still in public session. And I will now take that motion to formally appoint the hires. Deb.
I move to formally appoint the hires that were made over the summer by Superintendent Steiner or Superintendent Adams. Jonica Lindheiser as a 0.30 band teacher, Lynn Cutting as a 1.0 full-time kindergarten teacher, Greta Bottleman as a 1.0 full-time second grade teacher. And I apologize if I mispronounced anybody's name.
Thank you, Deb. Is there a second? Harry, thank you. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Moving on to public comment, final opportunity. Do we have any members of the public? No? Okay. The next meeting will be September 10th. We have Dresden next week, and then September 10th for Hanover. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn. Deb,
I move to adjourn the meeting at 8:25 p.m.
there's a second. Kara. And we'll do a roll call, starting with Marcella.
DeBlasio, yes.
Rosie.
Deanie is.
McConnell, yes.
Nelson, yes?
Russell, yes.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
I worked in